Hello and welcome to what's probably going to be quite an interesting coding walkthrough for Fortitude. You've got a bit of a different one this week. What you see in front of you is Fortitude 1.5, even though, as you probably guessed from the title of the video, this is a coding walkthrough video for Fortitude 1.4. And that's because this week I've been a bit cheeky, and I kind of finished 1.4 on Thursday. It's now Friday, but I wasn't, because 1.4 is such a large update just on its own that I was like, I'm just gonna write that up as its own kind of update, and then continue working, but under 1.5. So there are a couple of features in this. Yeah, the reason I'm telling you is there's a couple of features in this build that I won't be walking through this week, but I will be walking through next week because this is technically 1.5. This is just the latest build of the game. That's also a build rather than the Unity editor, because I'm going to walk you through the updates and then go through the code. And again, I do apologise if it's quite a long video. They get longer and longer every week. It's because we're right up onto handing now, so a billion things are being added every week. It actually gets harder and harder every week to figure out what to show you and what not to, because most of it's just fixing, and like bug fixing I don't really need to walk through because it's just bug fixing. You don't learn anything from that. It's the main like mechanics that I want to go through in these videos. Unless they're big bugs, of course. But yeah, so I think I've talked enough. Let's get right into it.
Autopilot disengaged.
Now you may have noticed that the other asteroids are gone now. That's just because this is just a test, because they're really laggy. Well, they're not really laggy, but they're really annoying when you're trying to test something in another planet. You've got to navigate through these asteroids. So I've just got rid of them for now. They will be in the final build of the game. And you may also notice that the lighting of the ship is a bit different. Ignore it. That's 1.5. You don't get that till next week. So what we'll do is we'll just head out here. There we go. So at this point is when you would normally exit the asteroid field.
Unknown signal detected. Triangulating origin point. Triangulation will take approximately 10 minutes.
Yes. Triangulation. That is the in the beginning narrative update that I walked through last week. So you can watch 1.3's video if you want to know more about that. In the map.
While triangulation is in progress, recommending a nearby planetary moon for exploration.
Alright, and this is where this week's update comes in, because we've actually added the next bit of the story. Now you can actually go to this moon and continue. Come on. I do apologise if you can hear any background noise. Someone appears to be digging outside. Always the way. Completely silent until I hit record, and then suddenly, ooh, I need to mow the lawn. Happens every time. Drives me nuts. But anyway, we will quickly and expertly land on this moon, because I'm pro at this game. Sugar. Actually going quite fast. Do you like my save there?
Entering upper atmosphere and compensating for orbital rotation. Alert. Navigational systems offline.
So as you can see, we've added an atmosphere. This is just, well, it's a modified version of El Galoda's atmosphere really, but it's quite a lot tougher because it's like a snowstormy planet, so yeah. And there's a thicker cloud layer as well. I apologise if you can't really hear me, this wind is very loud, as it's supposed to be. Come on.
Autopilot engaged. Autopilot engaged.
Perfect. As you might also notice as well, that knocking is really distracting me. I'm sorry. We've got wind going across the screen there, so that's a little kind of snowstorm going on.
Autopilot engaged.
Sit nicely. And then if we get out, you can hear a snowstorm noise. And you can still hear it if you get in the ship, but it's quieter, so make it like cozy. This was very much an atmospheric update. But yeah, so the idea is after the ship says triangulation and it says recommends, let's just get back in the ship so I can hear myself think. After it says, recommending the nearby moon for exploration, the idea is that you land on this moon and then you're like, ooh, this is cool. Let's go down here. Or, let's explore on the surface for a bit. And then let's go down into this really dark looking cave abyss thing. I'm sure nothing will go wrong. drop to the ground there. I don't actually know how loud that snowstorm is. I hope it's not too loud. I hope it's not blocking me out. It's a royalty-free sound effect, by the way. We didn't make this one, mainly because the snowstorm is kind of hard to replicate. But I did make sure it was royalty-free, so we're not going to get done for it. But yeah, so you're exploring, and eventually you come across another tunnel leading down, and it's here where things start to get interesting. Let's dive in. It's going to be loud, so brace yourselves. Hold you. So, the big thing with Esteban's moon, as this planetary body is called, is it's got an ocean under the surface. And it's not an empty ocean. As you can hear, there's kind of ambient ocean noise, also royalty free. But there's something else. I'll just turn the sounds up so you can hear it. Hear that? That is the sound that we made, I'd like to point out. Yeah, it actually sounds like it's really close. We might have just jumped into the ocean at exactly the right point. But essentially, there's something in the water with you. Now, this something you'll never actually really see. It's more of to kind of be in keeping with our overall. Let me just turn the sound down. To be in keeping with our overall fear of the unknown idea. It's hidden from your view. To be kind of more like suggestive, as like there might be something down there, rather than specifically showing a monster that you might have to fight or something. Because we don't think that's as scary. Being here in the darkness with only a spotlight, it's very kind of scary, and having some kind of sound that suggests there might be something down here with you is a far scarier concept than having a big monster, even though it might be initially scary, but also, this monster, or this suggestion of a monster, has surround sound. What that basically means is the sound of it moves around depending on where it is relative to your position, so it feels like it's like moving all around you, and we think it's quite scary. In case you're wondering, Josh has actually designed a sprite for the monster. It's like a shadowy kind of moving thing. Oh, this is interesting actually. Here's a little Easter egg. It's a dead body. I thought I'd freak the player out a little bit. This is actually the first time I've ever managed to find it, because this is a big ocean. Yeah, there's a little dead body. But yeah, so Josh has actually designed a sprite, but it's like a shadowy thing that kind of moves around.
Power level depleting. Initiation of remote control evacuation recommended.
This is a little sub-event, but we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, it's a little shadow that moves around and carries the sound with it, so it sounds like it's moving around you. Ooh, I think I just saw it actually. It's like a shadow thing. And the thing with it is as well is its opacity gets lower the closer you get to it. So it kind of gets more and more see-through the closer you get, and what that means is that it gets much more... if you actually manage to come across the creature, it's nothing but a shadow. Christ, that scared the hell out of me. But if you actually manage to come across it, it's nothing more than just a fleeting shadow across your screen, so you're like, wait, did something just move? Because it's like very, very thin. I can hear it, it's really loud, so it must be nearby. Let's actually drop my sound a bit. Also, this monster sound in combination with the just breathing of the player and the ambience of the ocean, I think is really atmospheric. But that event that you just saw there was a gentle nudge by the game to use remote control. Which has been overhauled in this update. So if I was to press Y...
Remote control online.
I can now remote control the ship. So it used to be the camera's perspective wouldn't change, and you could still remote control the ship,
engaged.
but from the perspective of the player. But that kind of made remote control useless, because you could only remote control it from a certain range, and if you were that close to the ship, you may as well just get in it. So to counter that, we've now made it so that the perspective switches to the ship rather, and there's also this bluish hue over the screen to make it look like you're like controlling the ship from a pad or something. And also sound hasn't changed. So you're still hearing the sounds from the perspective of the astronaut while you're flying the ship. Because yeah, the idea is that the player is the
Signal
astronaut.
triangulation complete. Planetary exit required for location coordinates.
The idea is that the astronaut's controlling the ship from a screen or something. And the ship also now has surround sound. So as I get closer to the player, probably best to wear headphones for this episode, I think. Let's actually turn the lights on so I can see what I'm doing. As you get closer, you'll start to hear the rockets of the ship. Yeah, see, there you go. Coming from the left. Ooh, 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 there it is. No wonder it was so loud. The monster's right on top of the player. I don't know if you can see that. Right there on top of him. It's actually in the beam of light of the ship right now. The white one, not the yellow one. Right there. See, there you go. That's the spooky monster moving around. You can actually see it quite well in the blue hue, which I think is quite cool, because like you can head down to the player, and the player, because you're in the perspective of the player, you can't see anything because it's just black. We're at the bottom of the ocean, by the way.
Remote control online.
But here you can see a lot more. So like you could
Remote control offline.
Happy and tranquil with the player, just milling about in the darkness, and then you get in your ship and remote control it down, and all of a sudden you can see that the creature's right there, and you're like, oh my god. So we thought we'd keep that in. And again, that's really, really scary.
Remote control online.
But yeah, in case you didn't catch it. You also may notice the lighting glitching a bit here. That's because of the player's circular light. That's going to get fixed, so don't worry about that. I do know what's causing it. Yeah, here we go. There he is. You can see him in much better light there. It's the spooky creature. Visual designs by Josh. Audible designs by me. We actually made the noise for this creature. Interesting enough, the noise that it's making is actually really, really, really slowed down speech. Just us talking. It was really slowed down to the point where it sounds super creepy. Let's let him wander around because he's starting to freak me out. I'm not. I've never been a big fan of the ocean, and that thing is super creepy. Yeah, see, the lighting's glitching out a bit. But that's because of the player's thing. Like, if we were to get in the ship...
Remote control offline.
It doesn't glitch out anymore. Gotta love Unity 2D and its buggy lighting. One final look at the spooky before we head out. Another thing you might have heard earlier there, the ship telling you that it's finished triangulating. So basically, a little while after you land and you've entered the water, the ship then goes, it's finished triangulating the mysterious signal that you heard at the beginning of the game, and you have to exit the atmosphere in order to see the coordinates. That's the dead body again. So that's exactly what we're going to do, head out into the atmosphere. Oh, look at that. Really nice design work. Like, props to Josh here, he really nailed the look and feel of this water. It looks so nice. So I can see what I'm doing. Oh my god, control the ship, you maniac. Tap that. I meant to do that. Yeah, these are some thin entrances, you have to be super careful.
Autopilot engaged.
Up. Up. Yes. Almost.
Autopilot engaged.
This isn't the best entrance to be coming out of, to be honest, it's so thin. It's meant to be, it's designed for the player to fit through. We might widen them. Depends. We need to playtest the game and see, really. That road planet's getting bigger and bigger. I don't see you. Let's turn the HUD back on. Oh, that's another thing actually. We have added, well, I've added the fuel gauge to the toggleable HUD. So you can completely toggle it off now. Which is nice actually. I think it adds to the atmosphere a lot. These giant beams of light coming out of the ship. It looks so nice though, or at least I think so. Josh thinks so. There's like beams of light coming out of the ship. Unity lighting's buggy, but it is nice looking. Like, for sure.
Leaving upper atmosphere. Navigational systems restored.
Alright, and the shaky fade away. And then, after a few seconds... Round key.
Signal location confirmed as originating from a planetary body called El Calauda. Updating map marker for new location.
So yeah, and then that's the story so far. Because the next... it's basically telling you now to go to El Calauda, which is the kind of Marsy planet just over here, which I'll just fly past. Yeah, that desert one that's just popped up there. Well, not desert, but it looks like Mars. And that's where the Alien Ruins event will take place. But that's next week's update. The latter half of 1.5, which I'll do, as I say, next week. And the last quick thing I'm going to just show you is we've also got another surface over here, which is the Esteban's... No, it's not Esteban's. Riker's moon surface. This is a volcanic moon, which is, well, I think, rather cool. It has a similar weather design to Esteban's moon, in the way that's also quite volatile, but there is one key difference, other than it being
entering upper atmosphere and compensating for orbital rotation. Alert, navigational systems offline.
It's bright. Very bright here, because obviously there's a lot of things going on. The wind is very strong. Let's actually try landing, not crashing. Yeah, see, the lighting's weird in Unity. For some reason Unity just doesn't like 2D games having lighting. Because like, now you've got one of the beams of light, but not the rocket. It's just bizarre. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. There's the Rogue Planet. Well, that's a lot bigger than it was. You might be able to hear the storm now. This is actually quite a loud sound effect. I should probably turn it down. It's not a good place to land. Oh, there we go. See, now we've got the old beam of light. We have adjusted the ship's weight as well, so that it leans better. So you're not like constantly wobbling around when you try to land. It's got a better center of gravity. God. Very, very loud wind. I don't know how loud that is for you, but it's incredibly loud for me. I'm just going to turn that right down. But obviously, because this is a volcanic planet, it's very, very volatile, so there's a lot of things going on. The wind pushes against the little guy, what's his name, the astronaut, as well as the ship as well, so... Yeah, see, now we've got that. Oh, I wonder if the atmospheric thing has actually got lighting attached to it. Because it seems to be shining on the clouds, but nothing else. Weird. I don't really want to get out. It's so horrible. Like, this is just a nasty planet. Horrible, dangerous place. It's the sort of place you never want to come. It's basically like hell. Come here. Come here. Come here. Thank you.
Autopilot engaged.
The reason I'm hanging around is because there is actually an event that happens on this planet. It's nothing to do with the story, because this planet doesn't have anything. Well, yeah, there's no story event here, but Josh and I felt that it was missing a bit of something, so we added a little. Oops. We added a little event that kind of happens Ah, I'm losing loads of bits. It's not good. Ah. Give me that bit, thank you.
Autopilot engaged.
And there are the other two. Ah, these they're either stalagmites or stalactites. I have no idea, I can't remember the names. But, they make landing in this cave incredibly difficult. But yeah, so to sum up, in terms of updates that we've added this week, it's the ocean monster and the kind of the narrative elements that go with that. Revamped autopilot system.
Autopilot engaged.
What else? Gotta read off the screen. Gotta read my I read my own patch notes during these videos just because of how long they've gotten. Would you sit nicely, ship? Sit nicely.
Disengaged.
Thank you. And obviously the HUD toggle. And a bunch of new sound effects, like we've added the weather as well, it's a good shot. In case you're wondering, the weather systems above, i.e. the clouds on the surface, they're just modified, well they are modified clouds from the old atmosphere systems that we added way back in 1.1 I think.
Autopilot engaged.
But they're meant to basically move the numbers have been tweaked so they move a lot faster. And they're also a lot more opaque, so that actually looks like wind rather than a cloud. I'm not very good at flying this ship. Feel free to skip like a minute or so later on in this. Come on. But I am waiting for this event to happen. It's on a timer, you see. I mean, what I will do actually is show you the wind in action, because it does affect both ship and player. Oh god. You gotta be really careful with how you navigate out of this thing.
Autopilot engaged.
Come on, upsy daisy. That planet is getting large. It's actually getting worryingly close to Rogue Planet event time. Like, we're at 37 minutes. We've got 20 minutes. I think that might need tweaking, because we've only just kind of done one of the story missions.
Autopilot engaged.
Come on. Yeah, see, the wind is pushing the ship. And also, it's very, very difficult to move that way when it's windy. Ooh, that's not good.
Autopilot engaged.
Oh, expertly done though. This is a little more elongated than I had hoped. Come on, slide.
Autopilot engaged. Autopilot.
There we go. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the narrative event for this week. Not narrative event, rather. Environment event for Riker's moon. Lava. Because obviously this is a volcanic moon, it's got to have lava. And we felt it would also be quite cool if you were just exploring and suddenly you see lava cropping up. Obviously if you get caught out in it, let me just tap it, bits start to fall off of the ship. Oh no, we're actually going to die here. And then you stink and bits fall off, and yeah, ooh. Things didn't go especially well there. Oop, blimey, that is wrong folder. What is this? Oh yeah, that's all the creepy AI. Gotta love this.
Refueling.
Yeah, this is the I've not actually shown this in a video yet, but this is the very, very creepy looking online interface for the AI ship. So you basically go to this website, ttsdemo.com, type in the ship's whatever you want the ship to say, and choose voices and edit the reverb or whatever, and it speaks.
Refueling.
The picture is really unnerving. But yeah, that just reminded me actually, I've never actually shown that in a video. But if you're wondering how that's done, that's how it's done. But yeah, time is afoot, so let me just move on quickly to the code. So, the main point of contention this week is the Ocean Monster script. I'm just going to have a quick drink because I've been talking for too long. And basically we grab a bunch of game objects and things up there, and at the beginning here we set the colour of the Ocean Monster. Yeah, this script is attached to the Spooku game object, aptly named, which is basically this little guy here. And we set its colour at the beginning, and the reason we do that is because we're going to gradually lerp the alpha, depending on the player's current position relative to the Spooku. So as I said earlier, when the closer the player gets to it, the more kind of see-through it becomes, so it looks like a shadow if the player ever actually comes across it, to be more suggestive rather than ocean than specific. Oh look, there's a monster. What have we got here? Problem with this game is it's getting so big that I've forgotten half of what I've done. Well, not forgotten, but like written so much. I mean, look, this script is just this week alone. Look how much stuff is in this. But we grab in here. Yeah. So this bit here grabs the current distance, which is the distance between the player and the Spooku. I'm just going to call it Spooku because that's what we called it in the game. It then sets the color of it to the color that we set up here. And then remote. Oh yeah, that's the tutorial thing that crops up, which I'll go through in a second. And then it sets the alpha of the creature color, i.e. the thing that makes it see-through or not see-through, to current distance, which is the distance between the player and the Spooku, times 0.005f. And what that basically means is, as I said, it gets less and less visible the closer you get to the player, and more visible the further away it gets. So kind of it's kind of ghostly. It gives it a bit of a ghostly effect, in essence. And here we've got a little thing that goes, if the player is in the water, i.e. in water, then it starts playing the spooky noise, it's kind of low growling noise that you heard in the walkthrough earlier. And then what have we got here? Oh yeah, so this is more narrative based stuff. Basically this is a couple of checks to see if you haven't yet completed the narrative that goes along with the Ocean Monster, and if you haven't, it sets a timer going. And then if 150 seconds have passed, this is the different timer. Yeah, this is a different timer that's set in foot navigation, which is the main script for the on-foot astronaut. And that timer begins as soon as you step into the water. So as soon as you step into the water for the first time, it starts the timer. And if 150 seconds has passed since you first stepped into the water of the moon, then the ship plays that little sound that you heard. It basically goes, your suit's power is getting low, why don't you try remote controlling? Basically to encourage the player to remote control the ship into the water, just so you can get some cool looking visual effects. And also see the Spooku, or see a shadow of it or whatever. Basically just to kind of make it a bit more fun. And then it also enables the sprite renderer of the remote control, which is a new text UI object, game object that you saw in the thing, which basically fades up and goes, you can remote control the ship by pressing Y when you're away from it. And then it gradually fades that in as time goes on, so if it's greater than 155, then it fades it in by changing the alpha in the same way that it does with Spooku. And then after 10 seconds of it being displayed, it then fades it out. This is the earlier timer I was talking about. Basically, as the narrative, once the player has begun the Ocean Monster narrative, i.e. they've entered the atmosphere of Esteban's moon, the ice moon, then is begin post-ocean is true. That's a heck of a Boolean name, am I right? But what that basically means is it starts the narrative. So we've got a little boolean here that checks to see if the player has been in the water, hence its name, because the narrative doesn't advance until the player has explored the ocean, because, come on, we got to force them into the ocean. We spent so damn long making the thing. got to get them to go into the water and face their fear. But basically, as soon as 400 seconds have passed since they've entered the atmosphere and they've been in the water, then it begins the narrative event. Which begins with the ship rather saying it's triangulated the signal and tells you to go out into the atmosphere. But the rest of that is done in the sound script, which I'll go through in a minute. So we've got a little function here called Wander, and this is the main AI for the Spooku, basically the big thing of this script. And it's not really AI, to be honest. It's more just a series of random movements within a confined space, but it still looks cool. And it does this via a series of floats and booleans. Basically, if choose movement, i.e. if the Spooku is currently choosing where it wants to go, then move X is set to a random number between -4 and 4. Move Y is also set to a random number between -2 and 2. And once it's chosen these random numbers, then stop choosing. And these two random numbers are basically the amount that the Spooku moves on the x-axis and on the y-axis. So it can essentially move. Oh god, words. If it chooses a minus number, it will move left on the x-axis. Yep. And if it chooses a positive number, it will move right. If it chooses a negative y, it will move down. And if it chooses a positive y, it will move up. And the X and Y obviously covers all bases, so basically the Spooku can move in any direction at any given time, completely randomly. It will just move randomly around in the water. And then here we've got another boolean called choose move time, and what that basically does is choose how long the Spooku is moving in that direction. So not only is it chosen a random direction to move in, it also chooses a random amount of time to be moving in that direction. So for example, it might move diagonally left for 10 seconds, then stop for a bit, then move back, and then suddenly stop for a bit, and then move, straight upwards for a bit. So it's basically to make purely random movement. And the move time can be anything between 1 and 20 seconds. Then we've got another function here, another boolean rather, called choose dither. And this is how long it sits for, because every time it moves around, it will then stop moving around and sit for a bit, and then wander off again. Although it doesn't quite stop moving for reasons I'll explain in a bit. Basically, it's dither time, the time it just doesn't move around. It can be anything between 1 and 7 seconds. And then after it's chosen how long it's going to stop moving for, is dither is true, which means essentially it stops moving. And then we've basically got if move time, which is set up here. If it's greater than 0 and less than 20, i.e. if it's a number between 0 and 20 seconds, then the Spooku is moving. And down here we've got that set. Basically, if move time is greater than 0, so if it's chosen a number between 1 and 20 seconds, then slowly decrease that time via time.delta time, so it actually decreases it as a timer in seconds. Then add a force to the Spooku times the X value that it's chosen up there, the random one, and add a force to its Y value. And what that basically means is it adds a force, pushing it in whatever direction it's chosen up here. Can you actually, hold on. Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, it is capturing the cursor. Weird, I can't actually see it on that screen. But the choose movement function here, if it's chose, it'll then move the Spooku via an add force in whatever direction it's chosen. And because it's an add force as well, when the Spooku is dithering, it won't actually stop moving. It will just kind of drift because it's an add force, and so the drag of the ocean will slow it down, but it won't stop moving. So it kind of drifts around gradually and then moves off in a different direction. And behaviorally, it actually looks a lot like a real creature. If you watch it move around, it's quite uncanny, despite the fact that it's just completely random numbers chosen. But yeah, I thought it was quite realistic, so I used add force rather than transform translate. And then basically, if move time is less than or equal to 0, i.e. if time's up, then it stops moving around and starts dithering. And obviously it can dither between 1 and 7 seconds. Oh yeah, that's another thing actually. It adds a force to counter its current velocity, so it does slow down gradually. This is to simulate the drag that I was talking about a second ago. It just gradually slows down as time goes on, and that's basically to make sure that it doesn't like continually speed up as it goes round and round. Yeah, and then here, lastly, we've got an on-trigger enter function, which basically moves the spooker around depending on how far it travels. So if we zoom out here and we highlight the whole thing, as you can see, there is a rectangular box around the spooku, because it's basically got a cage of sorts that it can't ever exit, so it can't like fly off into space or whatever. It's got to stay within the confines of this cage, and it does so via this code here, which basically goes: if you collide with the left-hand side of the cage and teleport to the right, if you collide with the right, teleport to the left. And what basically means is you can disappear off the end of that and reappear here, and then disappear off the end of that and reappear up here. So he can randomly move around as well, which is also quite scary when he just randomly moves around. Actually, zoom out here. This is the atmosphere of Esteban's moon's surface. So you've got all the clouds going, which have all got the well, that one doesn't. Where is it? Yeah, these ones have got like the wind script that I've been through before, where it's just like modified atmosphere, so they whip past you and cause you to move while you're in the atmosphere. And then these ones down here are just modified similar things with just really heavy, like boosted up numbers so that they move a lot faster and push you around a lot more. And then this is Josh's surface designs, which are very cool looking, by the way, especially those light shafts. Like, look at those. But yeah, so those have been added. That one, as well as up here, where is it? That's El Caloda. Yep, as well as this one, which is the Riker moon, and there's the lava peeking through there if you can't see that. Let's have a look. There's the lava that slowly rises up as time goes on, which we'll get to in a second. And then we've got the sound script, which is another major edit I've made this week, and this bit handles the more story-based part of the Ocean Monster event, which is basically the ship talking at various intervals. So it's begin post-ocean, which is set to true up here after 400 seconds have passed since you've landed and if you've been in the water. If that's true and you're already in the atmosphere of the moon, then the ship plays the recommended leave clip, which is it basically go, we've triangulated the signal, you need to leave the atmosphere in order to get the coordinates. And then it sets begin post-ocean to false, and then is location Elka to true, which is the second part of this narrative event. If that's true, and you've left Esteban's atmosphere, i.e. you're not on the moon anymore, then it starts a timer. Drops the timescale to 1 so you can't skip it, because skipping it breaks it, because most things break this game. And then goes, if 10 seconds have passed, then is in map is true, which is a function I set up a couple of weeks ago that basically zooms the camera out automatically into the map without you having to press a button. And a couple of seconds later, it will play the location confirmed clip, which is basically the ship going, confirm the location of the mysterious signal that you heard at the beginning of the game. It's coming from El Caloda. And then this little bit here enables the narrow tracker, which is that blue triangle that you see in the map, and it then points it towards El Caloda. So they're basically, in the map, the triangle is pointing towards El Caloda, so it's telling you where to go, basically. After a few more seconds, it then zooms the map back out, and then also disables the narrow tracker, which is the blue triangle, and then the event ends. So basically, when you get out of the moon's atmosphere, it tells you where to go next, which is the desert planet, or the Mars-like planet. And that, as I said, will be the Alien Ruins event, which is coming next week, hopefully. Well, it will be. And then the last thing we've edited in this particular script is the sounds, the kind of ambient noise sounds that play when you're outside the ship swaddling about on the surface. So if you're in Esteban's moon atmosphere and you're not in the water, then play the snowstorm clip. If you're inside the ship, however, drop the volume to 0.25. So what that basically means is it makes the sound a lot quieter when you're in the ship, so to kind of give you that cozy atmospheric feeling. Otherwise, if you're in El Caloda's atmosphere and you've successfully landed, Plays the ambient wind noise. I haven't actually showed you that in this one because I'm not flying out all the way to Alcaloda now. It'll take forever. Oh man, this video is 40 minutes long. I'm so sorry. I've just seen the time. But play the ambient wind noise. And same thing with the getting in the ship and out of the ship. And if you're in Riker's atmosphere, Riker's moon atmosphere, then play the volcanic storm, the very loud volcanic storm noise. So here we've got a little function that enables the swimming part of it getting in the ocean, because it's not just getting in the sprite. You've got to change it as well, and we've done this by setting a couple of functions here that basically goes, if you're in the water, then drop the gravity a lot so you're falling less fast, and increase the drag a bunch. And drag is the thing that slows you down, so it basically makes you kind of move very slowly and like sluggishly, because obviously in water in real life that's what happens when you swim. You would move really sluggishly as when you're compared to when you're outside of it. Otherwise, drop the drag and increase the gravity, i.e. when you're outside of it. And the same thing with the ship in the water. It increases the drag of the ship as well, so that the controls feel a lot more sluggish, and you basically feel like you're in some kind of thick liquid when you're in the ocean, which is the idea because you're meant to be in water. But yeah, pretty simple changes, but gameplay-wise, I felt it made a world of difference. Literally one line of code. What is this? Yep, so this is a little function, because the game currently has two sets of controls for the player. When you're in space, you can use the trigger. Well, when you're in space, you use the analog stick to move up, around, left and right. But when you're on the planet, you use the trigger to boost yourself around, because it's more fun that way. So a couple of functions here which basically make it so that if you're inside the water, you use the analog stick to move around rather than the trigger, just because it makes more sense, really. And that's done by just adding these booleans onto each of their controls here. Then we've got the lava script. This is a pretty simple thing. It's just attached to the lava game object from Riker's moon. And basically goes, if you've touched the ground, i.e. if you've touched down on Riker's moon, and you're in the atmosphere of Riker's moon, then transform the position of it upwards times up speed, which is a float set in the editor. And what that basically means is it transforms the lava game object upwards, so it's slowly moving up and rising, as you saw in the gameplay demonstration. And then this bit here is the modifications we've made to the autopilot system. So now when you go into autopilot, it plays the remote control online audio clip, which is a new implementation recorded with that website thing I showed you earlier. And it also, also enables remote screen, or disables it depending on whether you've entered or exited it, which is the blue filter. So visually you've got some kind of prompt that you've entered remote control, because it's like blue, this blue kind of screen-like filter over the entire screen. And then lastly here, this is another thing to do with autopilot, which basically changes the perspective of the camera to the ship if you've entered remote control, and back to the player, the astronaut, when you exit it. Yeah, so that's all the code changes for this week. Well, it's not all of them, but most of them were bug fixes, and bug fixes are not so important in this particular thing anyway. The rest of the changes were done. We're basically implementing the services, so we've got this one and this one, the Riker and Esteban moon services, which took a while to implement. I am talking quite fast now because I realised we're on 43 minutes. Again, I'm sorry for the length of the video, but I felt it was at least enjoyable, because you got to see the Spooku in action, which I'm really proud of, by the way. That event took us an incredible amount of time to make, especially to get him wandering around right, and to get the atmosphere just right. But we really feel we did quite well. Obviously, we need to play test to confirm that, but I really like it. But I've taken up enough of your time. I'll see you in Fortitude 1.5 video, which is probably going to be like an hour long, knowing me, and the amount of code I plan to do, which will probably cover the Alien Ruins event and whatever other changes I make. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.